I'm gonna start this video very differently than I normally do. I was just sitting here going through some of my old SoundCloud um, beats, and I'm just kind of listening to some of them and trying to pick one that I want to go through and remaster. And so I think what I might do is just kind of let the camera roll while I'm listening to some of these, and as I pick. And then if
For the
you hear
video.
one, if you hear one that you like and you want to hear in the future, just comment down below like which one that you like the sound of, and I'll do my best in the future to try and remaster it. Some of these I'm hesitant to pick to remaster because I did such a terrible job of mixing it to begin with. Like I'm gonna go through and listen to some of these and pick one to like remaster in this video. Oh yeah, this one, I used to do like much longer intros to my beats, but in some of these I noticed my intros were a little bit longer. And these beats are so different than what I would make now. You can see that this was 3 years ago as of, it says I uploaded it December 10th, 2021. So literally 3 years ago. That would have been around the time that I was kind of starting to figure out how to produce around this time, so. But I can tell from listening to these that I didn't really understand like genres, and I mean, to be fair, genres still kind of elude. I just kind of make things that I like the sound of, but even more so back then, I didn't really understand that certain sounds were better for certain types of genres and that sort of thing. So it's just interesting to see and hear my old stuff and be like, what was I, what was that about, you know? But some of it's kind of cool, so. This one, I remember this one.
You're so good.
Yeah, I might do this one because it's kind of fun. Oh, the strings, dude. I can tell, like, I was more focused on, like, feel and, like, how things felt as you listen to it, more so than I did, like, sticking to a specific kind of a groove or time signature or something, which isn't always a bad thing, and that's something else I'm learning as I'm listening to my older stuff, is, like, there were some things that I was doing back then that I think are actually better than what I'm doing now, because of what I've learned. In some ways, obviously, for the most part, my music has gotten better over time. But I don't know, it's interesting to listen to your old stuff and then be like, wow, why don't I do that anymore? You know, maybe I should start doing that more often. So I might do this one. Let me keep listening. This one had a long intro, I'm pretty sure. I don't know that I want to do this one. It's kind of samey throughout, too. This one was just interesting. I think up until... Oh, these were some of the first beats I ever made, actually. So this one isn't even, like, I don't know what this is at all. It's not trap, that's for sure. It's like Halloween music. What are those drums? I might have been onto something back then, I'm not sure. I think Gravedigger is about when I started to figure things out. I think up until then I was, just kind of throwing sounds down. But I might do Gravedigger. So I'm gonna download this and then throw it into FL, and I'll probably cut away to that because that takes a second. Okay, so here we are. And the first thing I'm noticing is there's something really resonant with this, like, bell. I've also got a lot of low end down here, too. I guess this is the whole thing I don't want. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is just kind of lower these ranges a little bit here. And then I'll make another one that's a bit more aggressive and I'll automate it in and out just like when I hear those bells come in. So and maybe we can go like halfway, like 50%. So this can be 0.5. Right there, it comes back in. This is going to be kind of tedious, but I don't have the stems to this, so this may be required. Because really, that's all I'm worried about this affecting. Why don't I do that? So let's get rid of this one. I think I'm fine with leaving this one the way it is. So it's at 1433 and about 5,000. Okay, so we'll put one in here. And we'll put it like right here. Okay. And I don't want this to really affect the clap. So I'm going to go through and automate, and this is the part that's going to be kind of tedious. I'm going to go through and automate just where the clap is. So let me put this at the beginning. So right here. This is such a weird placement for a clap or a snare. That's another thing I find interesting about working with like my old stuff. It's like, why did I put things in these places? But see, like it's so weird. I skipped like a whole, and it's kind of interesting because I do some similar things nowadays, but not the same way. That's a cool ending though, how I just kind of cut everything out except for that little wind. I do like that. Okay, I'm gonna consolidate this just to some CPU. Okay, I'm gonna make a filter, like an EQ filter just for this beginning part and for other parts that don't have any drums or anything. The very beginning. We can kind of lead it out. This. You're so good. And as I make changes to this, I'm going to probably keep the old versions just so that if I don't like what I did at some point, I can always go back and, you know, revert back to a previous iteration. You're so good. Okay, I want those hats to be a little bit louder, so I'm going to open up Maximus. If I had the stems, I would just go into the stems and turn up the hats, but I don't have them, so let's find them. Okay, I don't really want to turn up the like the melody part that I've grabbed in here, so I'm gonna put a dot kind of above the melody. So right here is probably fine, and then I'm gonna put a dot above that, which is gonna. So basically, what I'm doing is anything between these two dots is basically just the hats, because anything below this dot is just the melody. So I just want those hats to be a little bit louder. So I'm going to turn that up. And then I'm also going to start compressing a little bit. So I'm going to come down and compress the loudest part of these hats, and I'm going to revert that back for a second so I can see over here better. And this super high region, which is just 1300 and above, is just the hats. But at the same time, we probably don't want this to be too loud. So I might turn it up a little bit just to get those hats a little bit louder, and then later on I might shave off some of this higher end a little bit on an EQ to kind of make up for that fact. But I do want to turn this up just a little bit. And then we can also start compressing a little bit as well. I also want these hats to be kind of centered a little bit, so I'm going to merge this region a little bit. I'm going to put another instance of Maximus, and this time I'm going to focus on that low end. I want to look and see how much like super low end I have. So I'm going to bring this down to about 50 Hertz. And this one will bring it down to about 174 is fine. Okay, so here's the super low end. So this is like 50 Hertz and below. And this is what I want a little bit louder. So what I'm going to do is put a thing here. I'm going to push until most of the 808s that are hitting are above this line in the kicks. And it seems like that's the case. Okay. And the reason why I wanted to make sure I had all my kicks and my 808s above this line is because I want this stuff to be a little bit louder, but I don't want the quieter stuff in this range to get louder. Like the other low end that comes from the other instruments that aren't the kick and the 808, I don't want to turn those up. So I'm going to put a line above those, so somewhere right here is fine. And anything between these two lines, so between here and here, I want to make that a little bit louder. And then as a whole, I've turned up this by quite a bit, but I think that's okay, because I do want this to be a little bit louder, even though I did turn up that quieter stuff a little bit. And actually, I can kind of compensate for that by just barely turning that stuff down. So if it's quieter than that louder, kick and 808 stuff, it gets turned down a little bit. Okay, let's look at the mid, which in this case, remember, is between 50 and 174 Hertz. I want this to be a bit more level. So I'm going to compress that kick down a little bit. And then I'm going to do something similar. I want the stuff that's quieter to be even more quiet. And then I want the stuff between that and what's getting compressed to get louder. Except maybe not that stuff. Maybe I'll go up a little bit higher. So between here and what's getting compressed, I want that to get a little bit louder. And at this stage, the stuff that's 50 Hertz and below, I'm going to start merging that by quite a bit. I don't know that I need to adjust this too much. This high end is basically everything, so except for the low end. So I don't need to compress it too much. I think I want those hats a little bit louder. So I'm going to just turn this range up a little bit. Okay, I think I want to focus on the clap now. This is tough because I didn't quite mix the clap as loud as I normally would now. And it's hard to just grab the clap here without grabbing all this other stuff. So anything between here and here is going to get a little bit louder. Problem is I'm grabbing stuff like that where there isn't a clap, because it's just a little bit louder there. Okay, I really want to quiet down some of the stuff that isn't like these hats in this higher range. So I'm going to boost this up so that it goes above this line, or these hats go above this line. I want to make sure all the hats go above this. So let's go a little bit louder. Okay, so everything above this line is basically just the hats. So what I want to do is put another dot kind of where the top of the hats are, and anything between these lines I want louder, and anything below this first line I want quieter. And then I'll worry about compressing this range a little bit more later. Okay, so I want anything between this line And this line, which is just a very small amount of information, which is basically just the kick and the clap to get louder. I'm essentially just trying to get that clap to get louder than everything else without affecting the other things in this range. And in fact, I'm going to do the opposite down here. I'm going to make this stuff a little bit quieter. Okay, I'm compressing the highs a little bit now. And I think I'm also going to continue making things a little bit quieter that aren't like the drums, essentially. And the reason for that is because when I mixed this originally, I think I made some of the melodic things a little bit too loud. So I'm gonna listen for a second. I want to make sure like levels are where I want them to be. You can audibly hear. I want to change that because I can hear audibly that these sections get quieter because I EQ'd them so heavily. And so I want to kind of change that. Actually, what I can do is this. I'm gonna save it. Automate volume. And then we can make the max 100%. Set everything to 50. And then just turn up the parts that we want louder. So it should be like normal right now. This is really loud, I mean really quiet. And then it turns up in volume there. So we want this to be louder. So let's start at like 62, just kind of for no reason. And then we'll slowly go up to 66. And then right when it drops, we'll go back down to 50. So it doesn't change the volume. But there we go. Sounds a bit more natural. It doesn't sound quite as like it was jarring, as I said before, because like this is kind of what it sounded like. You can audibly hear right there where it just ducks down in volume, which I wasn't really a fan of that. So make this 50%. And what did we have that up to? It went up to 66 and it started at 62. That was close. 62. And then we can go up to 66. And then drop it back down to 50. Can still kind of hear it duck a little bit, but I'm also listening for it. It's a lot less noticeable. I want to put on a mid-side EQ. Because if I put my claps a little bit more in mono, I think that'll make it easier for me to make them louder without affecting everything else. So here's my side signal. I'm going to go ahead and take some of that out with a side signal. Run some of this off. I'm not sure where I put the clap. It doesn't seem to be... I mean, it's definitely way quieter than I would have made it now. You can see a little bit of the clap coming through in the separated on the sides. It is mostly coming in through the middle, which is good. That's where I want it. I think what I want to do is automate a little bit of volume gain here in the middle just when that clap comes in. But I don't want to do it too much because like I don't want that to be like noticeable. So I'm going to leave this here. And we're going to create an automation clip. And this is just in the middle, so it's not going to happen on the sides at all. And I'm going to go through, and luckily I saved these. This is where the main clap was. up here. So I'm gonna merge these. And then I'm gonna copy this and paste it to here. And then I want this to do the opposite, so I'm gonna flip it. And the minimum is gonna be at 50, because like if nothing's happening, I don't want anything to change. And then the loud, we don't want it to like spike all the way up. We just want it to kind of bump a little bit. So I'm just gonna start at 53 and let's just hear what it sounds like. So that's a little off. Then I'm going to go through and add, because I think I missed some things when I was in here. Maybe when I merged it, some of the things disappeared. So I'm going to go through and add the things that are missing. Right there. Okay, so I went through and on just the mids for like this orange beam right here, this orange band, I just have the middle kind of bumping up a little bit every time the clap hits, but nowhere else, because I just want that clap to be just a little bit louder, and I only really want the clap kind of shining through in the middle range, which is why I didn't do it on the sides.